They say some people enter your life like a spark, a flicker, and some arrive like fire. When I first saw her, it was raining. Not a cinematic drizzle, either, the kind of sideways rain that soaks your socks and makes you question your life choices. I was halfway to my car with 2 broken grocery bags and a cracked phone screen when she stepped under my umbrella. Just like that. No introduction, no hesitation. "Looks like you could use some backup," she said, holding out a spare umbrella like she carried it just for me. Her name was Claire. Claire Matthews. And from the moment she smiled, really smiled, something shifted inside me. She was the kind of person who made silence feel like music. Who could walk into a room and make strangers lower their voices. We talked for 3 hours in the parking lot that day, sitting in my car with the windows fogged up, laughing about childhood injuries, terrible tattoos we almost got, and which Disney sidekick we'd be in another life. I was a software engineer. Routine. Predictable. Comfortable with algorithms and anxious around emotion. Claire was an art teacher at a local middle school. She loved messy hands, crooked pottery, and the way kids say exactly what adults won't. It didn't take long, weeks, really, before the lines between us blurred. Our lives clicked together like puzzle pieces we didn't realize we were missing. She'd leave me post-it notes with tiny drawings on my laptop. I'd bring her coffee just the way she liked, cinnamon on top, 2 sugars, oat milk. We made up dumb games, like narrating our dates in bad British accents. We'd lie on rooftops counting airplanes, guessing where each one was headed, promising to visit every place someday. "I don't need someday," she whispered once, her head on my chest. "I need now. You are my now." It hit me then. Like a freight train wrapped in velvet. I was in love with this woman. Hopelessly. Utterly. And terrifyingly in love. My apartment smelled like her shampoo. My playlists were ruined because every song reminded me of her. Even grocery shopping felt different, I'd catch myself reaching for snacks she liked. It was that kind of love, not loud but ever-present. Not perfect but real. The kind that makes time bend. Days passed like minutes. Sunsets looked different when she was beside me. We danced barefoot in my kitchen at midnight. She'd hum little melodies while washing dishes, and I'd pretend not to record them on my phone. God, I remember thinking, this can't be real. Nothing this beautiful lasts forever. Turns out, I was right. But I wasn't ready for how fast everything would change. It started small. Claire would forget things. Not big things, little ones. Like where she put her keys. Or the name of a kid in her class. She'd laugh it off, brushing her hair behind her ear the way she always did when she felt uncertain. "No big deal," she said one morning, squinting at her phone. "Probably just tired. I stayed up way too late grading those clay elephant projects." But then she stopped singing while washing dishes. She stopped painting. Stopped dancing barefoot in the kitchen. And slowly my Claire, the bright, chaotic, beautiful soul I'd fallen for, began to fade. There was a day I'll never forget. We were driving back from her mom's place, windows down, music low. She turned to me mid-sentence and her eyes went blank. Just for a second. Like a light flickered out behind them. "Claire?" I asked, my voice careful. She blinked. "What?" You stopped talking." She looked confused, then forced a smile. "I did. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my hand resting on her back, feeling her breathing. I told myself it was stress. Maybe burnout. Maybe she needed time. But I knew. God, I knew something was wrong. Over the next few weeks, the changes weren't subtle anymore. She started missing appointments. Couldn't follow recipes she'd made for years. Sometimes I'd find her sitting still in the living room, eyes distant, as if watching a movie only she could see. One morning she called me Daniel. My name is Ben. I didn't correct her. Instead, I kissed her on the forehead and told her breakfast was ready. Then I walked into the kitchen and broke down on the floor. We saw neurologists, specialists, therapists. Claire hated every moment of it. She said it felt like being dissected while still alive. There were brain scans, memory tests, and weeks of waiting. The worst part was watching her pretend she was fine. I'm not a problem to solve, she snapped one day. You don't have to fix me. I just stood there, holding a bottle of pills I couldn't pronounce. I'm not trying to fix you, I said softly. I'm trying to hold on to you. The diagnosis came on a gray Tuesday afternoon. Early onset Alzheimer's. She was 31. I swear, I didn't even hear the doctor finish the sentence. The room just collapsed inward. Everything blurred except Claire's hand in mine. She squeezed it once. And I knew she already suspected it. That night we sat on the floor of our bedroom, backs against the bed, lights off. I'm scared, she whispered. I am too, I said. I don't want you to remember me like this. Diminishing. Then tell me how to remember you. She smiled through tears. With paint on my hands. Laughing at your terrible jokes. Singing Fleetwood Mac off key. That's who I am. Not this. I held her until her body stopped shaking. Until mine did too. But things moved faster than we expected. Some days were better, she'd wake up smiling, lucid, present. But others, she wouldn't know where she was. Wouldn't recognize the apartment. Wouldn't recognize me. And each time it happened, I'd smile like everything was okay. And then I'd scream into my pillow when she couldn't hear. One night, we were walking by the lake, our favorite spot, and she stopped suddenly. I want to go, she said. I turned. Go where? She looked up, her eyes steady for once. Before it gets worse. Before I forget how much I love you. No, I whispered. Don't say that. I want you to remember me this way. While I'm still me. My heart fractured right there, in the silence between us. I begged her to wait. I begged her not to disappear. But the truth was, she already was. I stopped recognizing myself in the mirror around the same time Claire stopped recognizing me in real life. There were days I'd wake up before the sun, just to sit beside her and watch her sleep, memorizing the shape of her lips, the way her eyelashes curved, the sound of her breathing. As if I could store those things somewhere safe. As if I could outremember the disease. But time was cruel. It wasn't just her memory that was slipping. It was her. Her sense of humor, her stubbornness, her spirit, piece by piece, stripped away. And I couldn't stop it. No matter how many books I read. No matter how many diets or supplements or treatments I researched at 2 a.m., in the blue light of my laptop, surrounded by sticky notes and cold coffee. I was drowning. I stopped going to work. Eventually, I took leave. Then I stopped returning texts. I shut out my friends, her friends, everyone. I became a ghost in my own life, orbiting around her like a satellite, close, but never able to pull her back in. And when she forgot my name for good, I didn't even flinch. She called me the nice man for 3 weeks. Every time she smiled at me with that warm, polite smile, the one she used to give strangers, it felt like a blade. There was a moment, I don't even know what day, when I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. My eyes were hollow. Beard untrimmed. I was wearing the same hoodie I'd had on for days, stained with soup she'd spilled earlier. I looked like someone grieving the living. But I couldn't let go. I wouldn't. Even as I lost her, I clung harder. I started journaling every day, writing down every memory I could still reach. First kisses. Inside jokes. Her favorite songs. Her first "I love you," which she said at a gas station while trying to eat a melted Snickers bar. I labeled photo albums. I recorded her voice reading children's books into a microphone, just so I could listen to her on the days she went quiet. I became obsessed with not letting her disappear completely. But nothing helped. The worst moment came on a Sunday morning. She was standing in the kitchen, staring at the faucet running full blast. I came up behind her, gently reached out. And she flinched. Stepped back. Terrified. Like I was a stranger. "Don't touch me," she whispered. "Claire, it's me. It's Ben." She shook her head. "I don't know you." I stood there frozen, my hands still in the air. My world crumbling. That night, I cried so hard I thought my lungs would burst. I begged God, the universe, anything to give her back. Just one more real moment. Just one. I held her while she slept, trying to believe she could feel it somewhere in her bones, that even if her mind was gone, her body might still remember me. But the truth was, she was slipping through my fingers, and no matter how tightly I held on, I couldn't stop it. Yet something in me refused to surrender. I started researching clinical trials. Experimental treatments. Anything. One night I drove for hours to a private facility a friend of a friend had whispered about, a place doing experimental work on neurodegenerative conditions. I walked in with desperation in my eyes and begged them to see her. They said no at first. But something shifted when I showed them the videos. The journals. The timeline. Everything I'd been documenting obsessively. "Maybe," they said. "There's something here. Maybe we missed something." Hope sparked. For the first time in months, I felt it, a flicker. She was almost gone. And so was I. But there was still a fight left in me. Even if it meant becoming someone I didn't recognize anymore. Even if I had to go to war with the impossible. Because I wasn't just fighting for her memory. I was fighting for our love. They said it wasn't possible. That there was no cure. That people like Claire fade, and you learn to let them go. But I couldn't accept that. Not while she was still breathing. Still here. The facility I'd found, Larkspur Institute, wasn't exactly a hospital. It was quieter. Hidden. A private research center in upstate New York, where NDAs were signed at the door and patients were numbers, not names. I didn't care. I'd have sold my soul if it meant even one more real conversation with her. After weeks of begging, showing them every journal entry, every photo, every medical record, they finally agreed to observe her. Experimental neural mapping, they called it. Unapproved, they warned. Risky. But what did we have to lose? Claire barely spoke anymore. She needed help dressing. Eating. Remembering how doors worked. Sometimes she'd just sit by the window, humming a tune I didn't recognize, eyes glassy. But the doctors, two in particular, Dr. Levin and Dr. Rains, started seeing something. Patterns in her brain activity. Moments of spike when certain memories were triggered. When I played her a voicemail from her mom, her frontal lobe lit up. When I whispered an old inside joke, she blinked twice, recognition flickering for just a second. "She's not gone," Dr. Levin told me. "She's under. Buried. But we think there's something locking her mind away." "Like what?" I asked. That's when things turned. A new scan showed lesions, not typical for Alzheimer's. More localized. And in strange patterns. Dr. Rains grew quiet when he saw it. I remember his face, something between shock and anger. "This doesn't look degenerative," he muttered. "This looks induced." "Induced?" I echoed, stunned. They ran more tests. Took samples. I barely slept, living in the waiting room, refusing to leave the building. 2 days later, the truth came out. Claire's symptoms weren't random. Her condition wasn't genetic or natural. It was caused by exposure to a chemical, a banned compound once used in some industrial art supplies over a decade ago. Claire had been exposed to it through old pigments used in her classroom. Cheap, unregulated, and never recalled. Paint that was supposed to be safe for kids. Paint that had slowly poisoned her. I remember going numb. The school board knew about the recall years ago, and never replaced the materials. Budget cuts, apparently. No accountability. No warning. No testing for the teachers. They let her inhale toxins for years. I so read. I drove straight to the school that night. I broke into the art supply closet with a crowbar, stood in that room where she used to light up every day, and stared at the shelves of old, dusty cans. Every one of them stamped with warning labels so faded you'd miss them unless you knew what to look for. I sent samples to Larkspur. Confirmed everything. The Institute called it criminal negligence. I called it murder in slow motion. The rest became a blur of fury, legal threats, media attention, parents demanding answers, teachers terrified. Claire's story became the face of a quiet disaster that had hurt more people than we knew. And through it all, I kept showing up to the lab, watching the researchers push the boundaries of what was possible. They built a treatment plan, a cocktail of medications, and a radical new process to try and stimulate damaged neurons through audio trigger therapy and memory sequencing. It had never been done before. I gave them everything, every video, every love letter, every audio clip of us laughing or crying or arguing about which pizza place was best. They programmed it all into the system. Then, we waited. Claire lay in the observation room, wires gently resting on her scalp, a monitor showing the storm in her mind. I sat by the glass, watching her. Hoping that somehow, against the odds, she'd find her way back. And then she blinked. Looked around. Eyes clearer than they'd been in months. She turned toward the glass. Her lips parted. She whispered, "Ben." I ran into the room. Knees buckled. Heart on fire. "Claire." She reached out. Touched my face. "You look tired," she smiled weakly. What did I miss? Tears poured down my face. Nothing important, I choked. Just the whole world. Claire's recovery wasn't like a light switch. It was more like sunrise, slow, soft, uncertain. The kind of change you don't notice minute by minute, but then one day, everything's bright again. She didn't remember everything. Some memories were patchy. Others were gone. But herself, the essence of her, was returning. Her laugh came back first. Then the way she tilted her head when she was curious. Then, one morning, she asked if I still made coffee with cinnamon on top. I nearly broke down right there. But here's the truth no one tells you about miracles, they cost something. We'd won a battle. But I hadn't left the war unchanged. The man Claire remembered, the one she called her now, that man was gone. Grief had carved deep lines into my face. Anger had hardened my edges. I was no longer the wide-eyed optimist who used to believe love was enough to fix everything. I knew now it wasn't, but it was the only thing worth fighting for anyway. The media picked up our story. Teacher poisoned by school paint makes shocking recovery. They wanted interviews, headlines, soundbites. But I said no to all of it. Because none of that mattered. What mattered was Claire. And what she needed now was peace. So we left. Packed everything into 2 suitcases and moved up north, to a tiny cabin by Lake Champlain. It had creaky floors, a wood-burning stove, and spotty cell service. But it had silence. And stars. And space to heal. I took up carpentry. Built furniture with my hands, something real, something that didn't rely on screens or code. Claire painted again. Slowly, then furiously, like a dam had broken inside her. But I was different with her. Quieter. Darker, maybe. I didn't laugh as easily. I flinched when she stumbled. I hovered more than I should have, waiting for the flicker behind her eyes that might mean she was slipping again. One night, she caught me staring at her from the doorway. "You're waiting for me to vanish again," she said softly. "No," I lied. She walked over and took my hand. "You can stop holding your breath now," she whispered. "I'm still here." And I realized something. She wasn't the only one who had disappeared. I had, too. And now I had to figure out who I was after all of this. Because grief doesn't just change you, it remakes you. It rewires your soul. I started writing, not code but letters. To her. To myself. To the version of me who had once danced in the kitchen and believed in forever. And somewhere in those words, I began to find myself again. Not the man I was. Not the man I tried to be. But someone else. Someone quieter. Stronger. Scarred but softer. A man who had seen love survive the unthinkable, and was learning how to live again because of it. Claire saw it too. "You're different now," she said one night by the fire, curled up in my hoodie. I looked at her. In a bad way. She shook her head. "No. Just different." Then she smiled. "I think I love this version of you, too." And I realized, maybe that's what love really is. Not just the joy. But the staying. The surviving. The becoming. It's funny. You go into love thinking it's this beautiful, shining thing, all soft hands and whispered nights and breakfast for two. But no one tells you what it really is. That it's brutal. That it demands everything. That real love will break you open, leave you bleeding, and still, be the most beautiful thing you've ever known. Claire and I, we made it through. Not untouched. Not unscarred. But together. Some mornings, she wakes up confused. Stares at the ceiling like it's unfamiliar. I've learned not to panic. I just sit beside her, hum the tune she used to hum in the kitchen, and wait for her eyes to find me again. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. And yet, even on those days, I love her. Even when she forgets the year. Or where we are. Or why there's paint under her fingernails. I love her when she laughs in the middle of nowhere. I love her when she forgets to eat, and when she asks me if we've ever been to Paris, knowing we went on our first anniversary. And she loves me, too, in her way. She may not remember the wedding vows we wrote on napkins or the rainy night we met. But sometimes, out of nowhere, she'll say something that floors me. "I think I've known you in every lifetime." Or, "I don't remember everything, but when I look at you, I feel safe." And in those moments, I realize, memory isn't the only way we hold on. Love lives deeper than that. In the skin. In the breath. In the space between two people that no disease, no tragedy, no forgetting can ever truly reach. Pain, I've learned, doesn't mean love has failed. It means love has roots. It means love has depth. There's a photograph on our cabin wall, taken last fall. Claire's standing in the golden leaves, wind in her hair, arms outstretched, laughing like she just told the world a secret. I look at it every day. Not because I'm afraid she'll forget. But because it reminds me that we endured. That we chose each other. That we kept choosing each other, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. That's the real truth, isn't it? Love isn't the opposite of pain. Love is pain. Woven into it. Made sacred by it. And still, we love anyway. Every moment with Claire now is a gift. Not perfect. Not always easy. But real. When I look back on our story, the laughter, the silence, the forgetting, the fight, I don't wish any of it away. Because through it all, we stayed. We became different people. And somehow, through the fire, we found a deeper version of love, the kind that outlives memory. The kind that exists in touch. In patience. In faith. So if you asked me today what love really is, I'd say this. It's standing in the wreckage, holding each other's hand and saying, even now. Especially now. I choose you. Subscribe, like, and tell people about this love.